Thank you very much. I'm so glad to be back here. Hello to everybody online, family and friends, and everybody here in the audience. I'll be speaking a little bit about the pieces that I'm playing today. For those of you online, there is a program online as well. If you go to is it daviesconcertseries.com or .com? You can find the program with the program notes, but I will speak a little bit about these pieces. And the first piece, well, this program today is called Reflections, and it's all about music that paints a picture for us about many different things. So our first piece is called Reflections. I actually found this piece after I had chosen the title of the program, so it was kind of perfect. It's by Elena Katz-Chernin, who is an Uzbek, I think the program notes are wrong here, I apologize, Uzbek-Australian composer. And I was looking for a piece to play by her, and I found that she had this piece called Reflections, and I thought, it's perfect. It's short, it's sweet, it's a great way to start the concert. It's a little bittersweet. It's taken from a musical theater piece that she wrote, and the song was called My Father's Eyes. And it's about a man who's looking in the mirror and shaving, and he sees in his reflection his father's eyes. And it's about the sadness of aging and of missing one's parents. Thank you. I'll talk about the next two pieces on the program. So next is a piece called Moana by Jennifer Margaret Barker, who is a Scottish-American composer. And I had the good luck of premiering this piece back in 2011, I believe, 2012, along with another work that she wrote. This piece is about her travels to Australasia and specifically New Zealand. The title Moana means ocean, sea, or large lake in Maori. And she was really struck with how the geography of New Zealand and all of the different forms of water that she encountered resembled Scotland. She said that she'd never been anywhere in the world that resembled Scotland as much as New Zealand. So you'll hear all sorts of types of water in this piece. I encourage you to close your eyes if you want to. You'll hear gentle waves lapping on the shore, droplets, tiny whirlpools, huge crashing waves, open ocean. At least those are some of the things that I hear when I play this piece. And the piece afterwards is by Florence Price. It's from a set of pieces that she wrote very close to the end of her life called Snapshots. This is the second of those 3 pieces, and I love this piece. It's called Moon Behind a Cloud. I love impressionistic music, and again, we have another piece that paints a picture, and you can imagine just all of the different forms of the moon that you might have encountered at various points in your life, in the evening, looking up into the sky. And so here's Moana and Moon Behind a Cloud. Thank you. I'm really excited to present these next 6 pieces to you. This is a set of pieces called The Burning Heart, and it's by a Hawaiian composer named Michael Thomas Fumai. Last year, I was looking for new music to program, and I stumbled across Michael Thomas Fumai. I'd never heard of him before. Until last year, I never knew any Hawaiian composers. Now I know one. And I love this set of pieces. I found it online, I listened a little bit, and it just kind of stuck with me right away. It is based on a set of 6 Japanese haiku, which he originally set for voice and piano, and also he did an orchestral arrangement, and then he decided also to do just a solo piano arrangement of these pieces. The poems are included in the program, both the print and online, so I encourage you to read along while you're listening to the music. Right, so in the program it says there's an intermission, but we're just going to forge ahead. So the second half of the program is all nocturnes, and I decided to do this. The inspiration for the second half is really the Hilary Tan piece that is the penultimate piece on the program. It was on my iTunes in my car, and it kept playing over and over and over again. And sometimes I would recognize it, and sometimes I would say, oh, what is this beautiful piece of music? But it was always the same piece, and so I felt like every time I got in the car, it would start from wherever it had left off from the previous time I was in there. It's not that long, don't worry. And I would usually stop it, but then when I would get back in the car, I'd think, what is this beautiful piece of music? And it was always the same piece. So I decided I should learn this piece. And she describes that piece, Light from the Cliffs, as kind of halfway between a Chopin nocturne and a Schubert impromptu. So it was because of that piece that I decided to program several nocturnes. And the first nocturne on the program, on the second half, is by John Field. John Field was an Irish composer, and he's credited with inventing the romantic genre of the nocturne, a piece about night with a lyrical right-hand melody and a left-hand accompaniment, usually some sort of broken or arpeggiated chord. Field's nocturnes are fairly short. They're very pretty. And this is nocturne in B-flat major. And then the second nocturne that I'll play is Chopin's nocturne in B-flat minor. It's from the first set of published nocturnes that he did, Opus 9. And although they're only 15 years apart in time, in my opinion, Chopin's nocturne is light years ahead in terms of expression. Supposedly they met each other, and neither one of them was really a fan of the other one. But it's really interesting to hear the difference that the nocturne as a genre experienced in just a short amount of time. And Chopin really refined the genre and took it to new expressive heights. The third nocturne that I'll play is by Claude Debussy. We're moving ahead here into the Impressionistic period. He doesn't really use a lot of what Chopin and John Field used. It's kind of his own language, but I love Debussy. He's one of my favorite composers, so I was really excited to include Debussy's nocturne. And then as a little palate cleanser after that, we have two nocturnes by Dave Brubeck. Who knew that he had published nocturnes? But he actually has a set of 26 pieces that he published as nocturnes. A lot of them were old tunes from other jazz pieces, but the writing spans from the 40s to the early 2000s. So you'll hear two Brubeck nocturnes after the Debussy. And then I'll speak a little bit more at that point about the last two pieces on the program. Thank you. So the last two pieces on the program, kind of by accident, are both inspired by cliffs next to the water. The first piece, as I mentioned before, Light from the Cliffs, is by Hilary Tan, who was a Welsh composer, although she lived in the States and taught up in New York, upstate New York, for many years. And this piece was inspired by a violin concerto that she had written earlier, and then a friend of hers, a pianist, asked her to write a piano solo, and so she wrote this piece. And it was inspired by some cliffs that were near her home in Wales. I'm not going to try to even attempt to pronounce the name of the cliffs, but I think I included in the notes, the description is kind of, looking out over the rocks and the water and with the mist, not even really being able to tell sort of where the sea and the land ends and the sky begins. So this is the first piece about cliffs and water, and then the second one is by a British composer named Charlotte Botterill, who is the youngest composer on the program. She was born in 1989, and I met her during the pandemic virtually because when I was doing my daily dose of piano and I asked the internet world for people to send me pieces, she sent me some short pieces that she was composing at that time, and I premiered them online. And then since then, we've met in person. And this piece that I'm going to play, Nocturne in F minor, it was chosen to be published along with, I guess, 21 other nocturnes for a new set of works, 22 nocturnes for Chopin by women composers. And so some of these pieces were inspired specifically by specific nocturnes by Chopin. Others were kind of just inspired by his general style, or this one in particular was inspired by the B-flat minor nocturne, which was the Chopin nocturne that I played just a few minutes ago. So you'll hear her piece kind of starts out in a similar vein, but then she takes it on her own journey. I like playing her music because it's kind of a mix of classical and jazz elements. And this piece, speaking of cliffs, was inspired by a time that she remembered sitting at Lulworth Cove, which I'm assuming, I'll be honest, I haven't Googled it, but I'm assuming it's near where she's from, and looking out over the waves and the rocks. And the subtitle of this piece is, I'm going to get it wrong here, Waves collide with the precipice, shattering into 100,000 tiny white droplets. So that was the mood that she was aiming to conjure with this piece. So here is A Light from the Cliffs, and then Charlotte Bottrell Nocturne in F minor.